Welcome this morning to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. I'm Diane Hawthorne and I'm here with my colleague Peg Beer. How are you this morning?
I am good, thank you, and I'm very pleased to have Diane out on the set with us because she is the wonderful person who creates our beautiful sets and is the support system for Debbie and
I
David
have that wonderful opportunity to do that. It's such a pleasure.
Well, it's nice to have you sitting next to me too. Okay.
Today's topic is one of Peggy's specialties, amazing miniature gardens, and Peggy does indeed create amazing miniature gardens. We've seen some little tidbits of it in the past. We're going to get the how-tos and the variety of them. A lot of beautiful pictures today, creative ideas on how to do it, whether it's in the container or in the ground.
Yes, we will do the how-to, and I do have a lot of pictures because I can go through them fairly quickly, and I do want you to see what this incredible world of small plants can do for you. It can be your entire garden. Actually, at our Fair Oaks location particularly, we have a lot of these containers done up and a wonderful train situation too. It can be a tabletop garden for people who can no longer get down on their knees. It's fantastic. Small garden, or it could be, as I have done for many years, a part of a large garden. So let's bring up that first picture, because primarily the pictures that we're going to do today will be taking you step by step through my own garden, as I have done with you many, many times and shared whatever I've been doing. But you know, a garden is never finished. You're constantly working on it, really, particularly if you love what you're doing. This little fairy, and it's a miniature garden both in containers and in the ground, and this little fairy says, welcome. He is part of a container. He's sitting on Dwarf Scotch moss, which is the ground cover, and surrounded by a dwarf cotoneaster, which is marvelous. So this is our day today.
Exactly, exactly. So it's gonna be fabulous. I've seen the pictures. You can't wait. And also today we want to announce that our seminar bulletin is out for the fall 2013. And again, a wonderful collection of speakers and presentations coming up. They begin on Saturday, September 7th at all 3 locations. And you can pick up your brochure at any of the stores, or if you're on our mailing list, it should be in the mail shortly, and you should be receiving that. But if for any reason you don't, call us and we'll make sure that we get one out to you. But fabulous ideas and things to do in the garden, and you know, just wonderful. So we're excited about that.
Oh yes, it is wonderful, and it is hot off the press, and yes, it is in the mail. And for those of you who don't normally receive it, you can join our email, I believe, and receive it. They will send it to you, so it's wonderful.
That's right. Today we are not going to be taking phone calls, unfortunately. So again, you know, just because we have such a lot to cover, we're going to take a look at some more pictures now of things that Peggy has created here.
Yes, and you're going to hear a lot about accessories and stone in this too. This is a precious little bridge in which a small stream, recirculating stream, has been recreated. This actually is at our Fair Oaks location, and we will go through some of these pretty quickly, because there are a lot of beautiful, beautiful plants to share with you. So let's run to the next picture. Okay, this again, the stone steps in miniature with sedums. That is a golden sedum and a bronzy and a green sedum. So sedums are wonderful. And the next one, please. Contrasts of textures available in these plants too. And sometimes you have one of these little plants that escapes. Isn't that fun? It's even growing through the windows of the little miniature house. So we also have some wonderful little hypertufa houses. The next picture. This one is a dwarf spruce, the blue that is in the background. All of these plants grow very, very slowly, whether they're in the container or in the ground, and they can be snipped back or pruned back, particularly before the middle of July, so that they won't have late growth. And then you've got the colors and the changes. You've got a golden plant streaming out, and this picture is creeping thymes. There are many different types of thymes and many different types of sedums, and look at that sweet little bridge that's there.
To give you scale on that, that bridge is probably about 4 inches.
If that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's amazing. The look that's created is just perfection. It's just, you know, even though that on that small scale.
And the next one, Diane, let's see what we think about that one.
Yeah.
I believe there's one more in this segment.
Yep.
Is there?
There it is.
There. Isn't that sweet? The little house.
And those little miniatures, not even in the plants, are incredible. What they can do with the plants to create that scene, and then the miniatures, the little houses and the bird baths and the bridges like you saw. And then you have the incredible little fairies from Cecily Mary Barker that are always added in, and that give such a magical touch to it. But when children come into the garden, they can bring their Disney fairies, they can bring their things that they've created out of pipe cleaners, and they can go for hours.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
and the boys with the trains, oh my goodness, and cars, just anything with a little pathway, seascapes, you know, things where the children just get down and they're mesmerized. They spend hours.
Right.
It just really helps with their creative imagination. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at that. I was talking to you. Okay, and this is one from Cecily Mary Barker, who was in England, Surrey, England, started just around 1900. She was born, and she studied children's illustrations because, like Robert Louis Stevenson, as a child, she had illness. So they corresponding courses in art and whatever she got interested. But the interesting thing with these is that they're botanically so correct. You know, everything on them, it is a flower, it does have a, you know, a name, it has the botanical names with them. It's just unbelievable. And she has books, and she writes books. Because I can remember my niece sitting at her high chair, you know,
really?
Studying those books at, you know, before breakfast, while breakfast was being prepared, and just loving that. So those are things that, you know, you've picked out, and they're special for a reason, because there's such a history to them. And in cleaning out my mother's house, all the miniatures, you know, that there are things that you can pick up around the house and add that mean a lot to children like that.
Absolutely.
Well, we're being told that we have to take a break here, and there's more to come, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. We're here in Washington, D.C. on a beautiful day in August, late August, and we're going to turn it over to Peggy here to talk about her amazing miniature garden. She's going to show you some beautiful pictures.
This one has evolved over the years because I really got very much into all of this miniature garden plants. First, really in containers and then into the ground, and it's constantly evolving. And I want to stand back because I want to give you a definite overview of exactly what this garden looks like. As I said, this could be your entire garden if you have a small townhouse area or a small lot. It happens to be my garden beside the road, and there is an enclosure to it. And actually next week we will be talking about what is enclosing this garden, because I'm a believer that you should plant the plants you love, and sometimes that means researching a little bit to find out if you're going to love them. There's beautiful, beautiful different types of plants here. Wonderful changes of colors and textures and so forth. But that is the enclosure for the miniature gardens that are in the ground all around and through here, and the containers. But let's quickly take a look at some of those, okay? As I said to you, a garden is constantly evolving. It's never really finished. And I had a couple of plants right here that I wasn't happy with. They had been in for a number of years and they were not thriving. And all it took was a couple of people to walk by and say, why is that plant there? And I thought, well, why, you know? So it got taken out. And then I created another little spot. I had a beautiful bird house. That's what this is. And I used it as a little focal area because this is a gravel driveway, and built up the stone a little bit. And let's see closer look at what was going on there. It became the little focal point in the entry into this garden. And all of these are miniature plants. There's a little dwarf juniper flowing out here. There's a dwarf hemlock and hinoki cypress and little dwarf mondo grass. But stone plays a wonderful role in this. Let's roll through some of these pictures. Closer view. Here's the mondo grass, and it lines the little entrance into the church birdhouse. And again, creeping thymes. It's been recently done, so it's going to take a little time to fill in. We'll go through some of the other things here. This is directly across from it and next to the driveway. These are large hypertufa containers. This is the biggest, this is a small one. There's actually a group of 3 here. They've been in for a long time. You can see the little miniature junipers that are here. There's a lot of cascading plants involved with this, and there's beautiful little houses. The houses are a little anchor to some of this, and a place for the fairies to dwell. Let's take a look at some of those. Here they are. I think they're having a conference as to what they're going to do next. There's a creeping thyme minimus, the smallest of all of them, creeping over the edges of this. And then there's Scotch moss and a tiny, tiny hinoki cypress. Again, this is that cotoneaster that we saw earlier on, and the little fairies that are visiting there. Let's go to the next, please. Here again, in the same general area, the little fairies play a big role. And the next one, please. Let's roll through some of these. Here we go. See, they're having a conference. This is a little 2-story house. It has a place for water up there. And this is a dwarf hinoki cypress. Beautiful, beautiful plants. And again, please. Again, as a part of that grouping, here's wire vine. These are perennials we're talking about. A dwarf spruce, wood that you collect, in addition to the stone, is a part of this. The accessories become a part of this scene. All next to a beautiful cascading Japanese maple. I think there's another one coming up. Here is the third hypertufa container with, again, a house. And yes, I have allowed a miniature ivy to grow here, but I do restrain it, okay? So that it doesn't really take over. You know, I think that we will go ahead and continue, although this was supposed to be, I think, the last one in this segment. Let's continue with 2 others. Aside from that, again, as a focal area next to the driveway is a grouping of these containers. Now, some of these are what we made up, and we do have for sale. Hypertufa, that's made with Portland cement and usually peat moss and various things, but you are not limited to that. Any type of container that holds soil and has good drainage is a candidate for all of these flowers. This, again, is a grouping staged at different heights with different types of these wonderful plants. And then in the ground next to it, Coreodalis lutea is a perennial that's blooming and furnishing a lot of color and a lot of interest. Among this world of these miniature plants, the steppables, the treadwells, etc., you'll find a lot of color in the plants themselves. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about more of these.
Hi, I'm Diane Hawthorne. I'm here with Peg Beer. We're
Those
talking
sunflowers, they do say the season, don't they?
Oh, bright, cheery.
Great.
Oh my goodness. And we have the day to go with it. We are being
yes.
blessed with a beautiful day today. We got to get out and really see the, seize the day, I guess I should say. Well, we're going to continue with some pictures of Peggy's garden here.
Yes, we are going to investigate not every square inch of this garden, but a lot of it, okay? Once we leave that entrance, Diane has fortunately been to my home a number of times and brought her nieces and nephews.
Grace and Maddie and Jackson, and they adore that hanging out the windows on the way to Peggy's house. Yes.
But there are stepping stones that lead around a small waterfall in reality. Stepping stones are a wonderful part of a garden, I think, don't you, Diane?
Yes, yes, and that natural effect, look at that. Wow.
They lead you through. A lot of these plants that we're talking about, perennial plants, are, as I said, referred to, trademarked as, and we'll talk more about that later, Treadwells, steppables, and other things. There's a large, large collection of them. But this is a wonderful use for those plants. I don't really recommend walking all over in substitution of a lawn for most of these plants, but they certainly will sustain being around stepping stones. And I want you to take a close look at the role that stones do play in the next picture, this picture. Actually, there is in the foreground a little sedum, and what you can do as accents, and even small stones can be a part of that accent. I felt there was a need for something else to help anchor that. So look at the foreground of that picture. Now in the next picture, a slight change up just by adding a couple of stones next to the steppings. Can you determine that, Diane?
Yes.
It adds a different feel. Just two small stones.
But you know what I love is when you've done that, it looks like it's been there. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like someone came in and tore it up and put it back in. Look at that. It's a natural. It just is so beautiful.
It really is a fun type of gardening. Number one, yes, there's maintenance. There's maintenance to every garden, but it's not high maintenance, you know. And like I said, you can grow these containers and they can be enjoyed without a whole lot of maintenance for people who just cannot get down on their knees.
Right.
And in the next picture is directly across from that, and this is probably the area that I developed first, and it's beneath a Japanese maple, which I've limbed up, and you can see the trunk and so forth, and let that be a big part of this whole scene and interest. There's a plant called Pratia mixing with a lot of different sedums in there, and many, many different types of little evergreens. So let's take another look at that. I mentioned Pratia. Now, this is a takeoff plant. Yeah. Once it's happy, it really grows. So you want to be sure that it doesn't overwhelm everything, but I can't be without it because this is what it does in the spring.
Look at the effect. I mean, what else would you get? You know, that's just beautiful.
Color for a long period of time.
Right.
And the yellow that you see is Coreodalis lutea, which is not a dwarf plant. It actually grows to 1.5 feet, perhaps. In the next picture, again, I've used fun things in here. You've got the opportunity to do that. This particular little house, I made a little tiny patio with stone because the house is sitting on a piece of slate, and the little figurines that are there. Up to that little house because it's on an incline for good drainage. In the next picture, miniature stepping stones going up the hill.
But you just don't know where it's going to take you, and you're just so anxious to get up those little steps and see. Even, you know, but that's what children just love, and adults. I mean, it just brings a sense of wonder into everything, you know, among the garden. It just that's fabulous. I just like that little shot.
And in the next shot, We're going directly across from that. The stepping stones that you saw earlier are between these two gardens. This is not a huge garden. This particular garden was developed beneath a specimen upright Japanese maple. Totally beautiful tree. There's many different evergreens there, and you can see what this collection of evergreens do for that particular area. Now, if you go follow those stepping stones, and stepping stones lead you into other areas, this is what you find behind that tree. This is looking back from a little waterfall. These are larger perennials. Hakanakloa grass, loves part shade, and Begonia grandis, which is in bloom right now. It's a perennial. If you don't grow this plant, it needs afternoon shade. One absolutely glorious plant. And I believe there's a couple more pictures here. Another little bridge, Diane.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then the stones. And then the way in these pictures that you use the color contrast, I noticed the Japanese maple with the red, typical red stone, where, you know, the top of the picture was the Japanese maple and the bottom was the typical red. Just stunning. But these, just those little bright little flowers just add such an accent. And then the grays and the greens and the little bridge, all of it, just so cute.
This is actually a little area that's next to the waterfall that I took a piece of the pond lining and scooped out a small shallow area. This is probably only 3 by 4 feet and probably only about 8 inches deep, and filled with water, and miniature bog plants are in there.
Right.
So the little bridge was totally happy.
Right.
And something that Diane has contributed to over time is in the next picture. So you can tell them a little bit about some of these fairies.
Yeah.
I think they appeared on one of my birthdays.
Yes, yes. We had such a good time. One of my co-workers and I came out, and we just had such a good time surprising Peggy. Her husband was in the car in the driveway, didn't know who we were or what we were doing at the time, because we were kind of hidden. And we did a Midsummer's Night's Dream kind of scenario with a little circle of fairies and a little girl looking over it and whatnot. And Peggy has enjoyed these fairies. They've been everywhere and done everything, so it was just such a joy to to do it. But look at the little stonework she's created, the creeping plants and just the look, the shade. People are just drawn to that. I know, because when people come down the street, it's just like they have to come in and look.
They visit this garden, and this is at the base of that beautiful Japanese maple. I didn't want to dig into those roots, and as we go along in the program, I'll show you what I did in lieu of digging into those roots, because you don't want to dig deeply into the roots of an existing tree. You want that tree to survive.
Right.
Neither do you want to pile up a great deal of soil. So I was very cautious that the little waterfall was built above ground,
right,
and not dug in.
Right.
And also cautious that as I created this garden, the tree was growing along with it, but the outer reaches of it are built up on a mound.
Right.
And we'll tell you how I did that as we go along.
All right, with proper knowledge and care, it can be done.
Easily, yes.
All right, stay with us now. We'll be right back with more on miniature gardens. Welcome back. More of the wonderful nature in miniature, and we're covering that today. And we're going to go right to our pictures here, and the first one should be, we're going to show you a stone, another interesting piece of stone. When you go into the stone quarry, you see smooth, every kind of stone, but beautiful. And if you look within your garden, I'm sure there's a place, appropriate for, these pieces. And this is sedum, and it's growing over that rock. It's been planted there, and you can see the natural effect. And then with anything that you wanted to add, you could stay with just that, or you can add to it. But it has beautiful contrast and texture and line, just the lines of it coming over that stone and then the stone itself. It's all beautiful. It's like a quilt. There's just all different pieces to it.
It's wonderful how all of these plants do grow. They're great, and they all require excellent drainage, and we will discuss that. I told you that gardens evolve. Certainly mine has, and I've shared that evolution for quite a few years now. And the next few pictures show part of that evolution. I keep expanding because it's fun.
Yes, yes.
Because it's fun. And actually we made these little houses, little hypertufa houses. We made our own forms. And then I painted them because I wanted them to have a lot of character. And nestled them back under some of the small trees that I had limbed up, and created a little community back there, again with stepping stones and so forth. And the little miniature acorus, that's the little golden grass. You have the same change of textures in these plants in miniature that you have in the big ones too. So as in front of that little house is a little formal garden. If we move on to the next picture, you'll see there are little stepping stones there. And as Diane said, in our stone quarries, which are delightful, you can always pick up some of these little bits and pieces and whatever. And I have on the front of the table a lot of the wonderful stones that are readily available. So you're only limited by your imagination. And this little accessory thing, and I love some of the accessories that we have, is like a little formal garden that is surrounded by dwarf mondo grass. The next picture, again, a part of this little community, is another house that I'd painted. And we've got, yes, a few little sunflowers, but no, there are no dwarf sunflowers. What I've done there is put in a couple of little ceramic ones, and again, the dwarf grasses. The following picture, the third house in this little community, and it has the little creeping thymes and the little creeping plants that are leading to the stepping stones that go up to that, and the little accessories. Now, across from that, as we're coming around to the other side of the waterfall, you're going to see more of the very small, the miniature evergreens. The larger one there has been in place for a number of years and started as a tiny little thing. It's a cryptomeria. And it will eventually get 3-4 feet tall, but I'm not going to let it do that by trimming it.
But it's nice you have that option. If you want to go out there and do it, you can do it.
Absolutely, you can do that. So let's see some of these other, primarily concentrating on some of the dwarf evergreens. Primarily it's a mixture of pines and cedars and hinoki cypress and creeping thymes and sedums. I love that little area there.
That effect. I mean, the lighter green, in the background, you can see it so well, and then the little pathways there in the front, the little stonework, unbelievable.
Yes, and you mentioned also, Diane, the red stone. I've used that red Seminole chips almost throughout this entire garden, built up and topped off with the red. Eventually, a lot of these plants cover it,
right,
but it gives good drainage too, and it's beautiful in the meantime.
And it also brings out the green. It's almost like a lattice work with a color behind it, because it's the color comes through and it makes the green green.
Absolutely. Now, in the following picture, every place needs a place to sit down and to enjoy, and I do have a grouping of seating areas complemented by container gardens to give a lot of additional color in this area. And this year I used a lot of caladiums to do that. It is in shade in the afternoon, and it's a wonderful place to sit down and visit with the neighbors when they pass by. Quickly, I would like to show you 3 more pictures. Let's zip through these. These are containers that are in my driveway adjacent to this. Creeping Times, and a grouping of other containers. And in the next one you can see some wonderful, this is a dwarf form of coral bells. It's gorgeous. And behind that coral bells is a dwarf form of a spruce. And in the final container for this segment, I use also succulents from the greenhouse that are not hardy, but they are in small containers and they can be taken inside for the winter.
Succulents are wonderful.
Yes,
oh,
they're beautiful.
My goodness.
Succulents and cactus become a part of that scene.
Right.
But since these are not hardy, they're planted in small containers and can be taken inside.
And aren't we getting excited that fall is coming in this container gardening? Every time we say container gardening, it's almost fall, and we're, oh, how exciting is that? Yes, but fall is our container gardening specialty. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Well, good day, Dr. Alan Armitage here, and you know, I love this gardening thing. I just love that plants not only are beautiful, they're functional, they make me feel better, but there's so many of them. And it's hard sometimes to sort of get your arms around all these plants. It gets complicated. Well, here's something not complicated. Here's a program called Treadwell. And just as the name suggests, it's a plant you put around paths, near paths. You can even step on them, I suppose. But the fact is, these are low-growing plants, and they're terrific. They're colorful, they're tough, they're hardy, and they work, and they're simple. But not only that, if you have Treadwell, you also can do a little QR code here. And this QR means quick reader, and just scan it with your smartphone. And how much fun is that? But what comes up is a video about the plant. So not only do you have a great plant, you got a great message about the plant. It's a no-brainer. So let's not get too complicated. Let's not take gardening any further than what's meant to be. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to give pleasure and beauty. Treadwell does it. Well, let's go gardening. Let's get our fingers dirty. Let's go find some Treadwell.
Now, that was Dr. Alan Armitage,
yes.
the world-renowned author and lecturer, okay? And he's a fascinating individual.
Absolutely. You can tell that he has an incredible amount of enthusiasm. I've been fortunate to have heard many of his lectures and been with him on a number of occasions, horticultural occasions. And the man is just so full of enthusiasm. He's taught for many years at the University of Georgia and trialed plants. And
he does online courses, but his enthusiasm for gardening is just incredible. He's been at Maryfield. We've had the opportunity to
have him do seminars.
Oh, wow.
But yes, I thought that particular message, promoting this wonderful world of plants, but it also telling you about the QR codes. I don't have a smartphone, so I don't go around to it, but a lot of people do. And this is a fun new thing. All of these wonderful little information tags that are in here can be, as he showed you, turned over and scanned, and you hear his voice talking about these plants.
Educating you on all that.
Absolutely. Talking about where they want to grow, sun, shade, drainage, whatever, you know. And actually this is the Treadwell brand, because most of these plants are branded, and this company does a marvelous job.
Yes, they do.
And he was there last summer when we went over to take a look at these plants. This is a beautiful plant. It's called Delosperma, but it's the dwarf form of the Delosperma. It blooms, it will take a lot of sunshine. It blooms often and all summer long, and creeps across the ground. It's not obnoxious, okay? It does a good job of that. Let's bring up,
show us some other plants.
Some of the others. Well, there's several here. Oh, the sedums. The sedums are out of this world. Again, this is one of the Treadwell brands, and it's a blue, low-growing sedum. And it's going to bloom too. All these sedums do bloom. Why you hang on to that? There's one here that I have not grown. There's always a new plant out there that you want to try to learn about, you know. Number one, you want to know if it's going to be a wonderful plant that's going to grow well and play well with its neighbors. So I'm anxious to find out about this one. It's called Mahenia cordata, and I have not grown this one. So I'm going to have to give it a try. It's native, actually, native plants from Pennsylvania south through Tennessee. So, hey, it's got a big area where it grows. And it's fine. And something tells me you're going to have to watch that one a little bit, you know. But it'll grow in the shade, and so that's very interesting. Ajugas. They sent in one of these wonderful plants for me to show today on the show. This is a bronze ajuga, and I love that one. And here again, there's that wonderful little tag there that you can find out about it, you know. Now, I do want to share with you the fact that these Treadwell plants, which, as I said, is a branded name for all these that make wonderful ground covers and that you can step on occasionally. And there are different brands out there. The plants vary slightly. Some of them are very similar. This particular one is branded Steppables. You have the one that's called Treadwells. This particular one's branded, well, it's not, it's Jeepers Creepers. Sorry about that. Jeepers Creepers. And then they're creeper, meaning that it creeps, yes, and that happens to be the Irish moss. And then we have the ones that are the Steppables. And wow, this is a fun, fun little plant. It's a dwarf pratia. Now, the pratia that you saw in my garden that was really, really taken off and that I have to watch, this is the dwarf, even dwarfer form of that. So you wouldn't have to watch this quite closely, you know. But I couldn't be without it because it's incredible. Now, there's one more plant if we've got time. I really do want to show you. And this comes in several, the Steppables and the Treadwells and all of that. It's a little alpine geranium. It's wonderful. It blooms off and on all summer also. It's a little clumping form, and I just love it.
It is beautiful, and the intricacy of those little flowers is incredible.
And look in front of you there is one a pine. You asked, there was questions earlier about how you can keep some of these really, really dwarf. And with pine in the springtime, when these new growth comes, I wouldn't do it now, it's too late. I would pinch out that and it would branch beneath it, okay? And that would keep that one down. Wouldn't do any shearing and pinching right now. You don't want to promote growth on these that might be killed by the wintertime. But if you need to do some pruning, you could wait until October and prune lightly if you wanted to contain it. But with some of these things, you just never, ever have to prune. This is a little dwarf Chamaecyparis, and it's green. And here is a little yellow form of beautiful Hinoki cypress. Wow. Look at the different textures and the different colors and shapes. It is an exciting world, and as I said earlier, plant the plants you love.
Exactly.
And this is
exactly. All right, we're going to be right back, and we're going to show you some soil mixes and some interesting combinations of things. So Peggy's got more. Stay with us. Welcome back to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. Peggy's brought in some containers for us to see firsthand here, and we've got all kinds of.
Actually, we spoke of being able to do tropicals and have them in small containers so that you can winter them back in the house. And I had done up again in a small clay container, and I think I'll have to lift it up a little bit. This is done in a very well-drained soil mix, and the wonderful little cactus that have been grafted on here. I love these because they're so colorful. And they've done so beautifully. I had not done these until just a few years ago, and I actually put them out in my garden as color accents, and I just love it. So I have an unusual sedum trailing out of here, and I've topped it off again with some of that little red stone that I love, and then added again. We've got so many incredible stones. This is just a lightweight little stone that picks up the color even of those plants. Yeah. So everything is well thought out here, okay? And it really is so easy to maintain and so easy to take it back into the house and enjoy it. Okay?
And each side of it has a different, stone. One features the stone, the sedum, and the cactus. It's beautiful.
You can do that.
Beautiful.
So that's in the little container. Now, how did I do that? Actually, and I don't think I have to stand up, but if we can bring the camera, and I don't have too many things in the way of it. Can you see this container that's next to it? Yes, you can. Let me move this wonderful little Jeepers Creepers here. Your container can be, as I said earlier, anything that will hold a porous soil and has good drainage. So there are holes in the bottom of this container, and it happens to be a poly container, so it will winter well. And into that, I have actually, over the bottom of that drainage hole, I have cut a piece of, and we do cut yard-sized pieces of this landscape fabric to make it easy for people who want to do container garden. I cut a wedge of this and put it over the drainage holes. And then you can use any type of stone. You can get some of the really small stone. I put in some little river jacks because they're small and they're inexpensive. You can use pea gravel in the bottom. This is a very attractive stone too. I put a good inch of that on top of that landscape fabric. And then for all of these plants that require extremely good drainage, I use another product. I actually use Permatil. It comes in bags like so. It's exploded slate. It's a natural material and it's very sharp. And it guarantees good drainage. It doesn't disintegrate in the soil. It stays there. Okay, we can hold on that while I'm going to reach down and get the actual product, okay? I mix it at least 1/3 will be this particular stone. I mix it with our potting soil, or if our potting soil is not available to you, then any other good potting soil. And you can see this soil is here. I believe I actually brought along my absolute favorite trowel. This is, as you can see, a wonderful blend of the potting soil mixed with 1/3 of that. You can elevate this by using other stones at the back and actually change the contour of it, and it's ready to plant. You can use part of this as a sitting area, part of it as a planting area. I've used stone accents, some of the wonderful little accessories, or even small pieces of wood. So it is a fun thing, it's a challenging thing, it's a creative thing, and it's just enjoyed by everybody who comes to see it, you know? I do love that very much. We do have a couple of other pictures to share too.
Yes, we do. We do.
Before we go, and a reminder of our wonderful singers.
We do have a slide, if we can bring that up, on soil prep. And that is a picture of the soil preparation
In the beginning.
being done. That's right. But look at that.
Yes,
Fabulous.
and it shows the role that the stones play in this garden, and to elevate the soil. Again, I did not want to dig deeply underneath this particular maple. There were a lot of things already established that grew along with the maple, nor do you want to pile several inches of soil all over the top of the root system of these trees. But I did build it up, and I did improve the soil. And in the last picture, I really want to extend an invitation to all of you to come particularly to the Fair Oaks location, because we have a lot of these containers set up, and you've seen this, haven't you?
Yes. And please do come in. It's wonderful. We want to encourage you to come into Fair Oaks. We also have our fall seminar schedule ready and available. Peggy, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and bringing such beauty into the garden. Good luck, David Yost, tomorrow in South Riding. He's doing his try. Oh.